Walters is the place to be on Thursday night, with both the Nats and Commanders playing at the same time. The Commanders' Week 2 matchup in Green Bay kicks off at 8:15, and Walters has plenty of TVs to have you covered just across the street from the ballpark. Hey, let's see if Walters can outdraw Lone Depot Park this Thursday night.
Warning, the following ZipRecruiter radio spot you are about to hear is going to be filled with F-words.
When you're hiring, we at ZipRecruiter know you can feel frustrated, forlorn even, like your efforts are futile, and you can spend a fortune trying to find fabulous people, only to get flooded with candidates who are just fine. Fortunately, ZipRecruiter figured out how to fix all that. And right now, you can try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/zip. With ZipRecruiter, you can forget your frustrations because we find the right people for your roles fast, which is our absolute favorite F word. In fact, 4 out of 5 employers who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day.
Fantastic.
So, whether you need to hire 4, 40, or 400 people, get ready to meet first-rate talent. Just go to ZipRecruiter.com/zip to try ZipRecruiter for free. Don't forget, that's ZipRecruiter.com/zip. Finally, that's ZipRecruiter.com/zip.
Here's the pitch. Swing a line drive right side. It's through for a base hit into right center field. Lile will trot in and score. It's the Nationals 3 and the Marlins nothing. Garcia with a bullet base hit to right center. His 62nd RBI. And the Nationals with big 2-out magic here in the top of the 6th. No balls, 2 strikes. Irvin the set, the pitch. Swing a ground ball past the mound. Garcia fields. He tries to tag the runner. Out is the call. The throw to first gets by Bell. But it stays in play. Josh will pick it up. A run scores Edwards. It's a 3-2 Nats lead. Garcia unable to get the double play. Marcy's contending he was not tagged at all. And the Marlins are going to challenge this call.
Well, now Miguel Cairo wants to be able to call it his replay people and see if he wants to challenge.
They must be
this.
overturning this. Now they just called him safe. So Laz Diaz has called the runner at second base safe.
And now Cairo's going to challenge.
Miguel Cairo's going to challenge.
After review, the call's been confirmed. There was no tag. The runner's safe. Washington loses his head.
And now more calamity. And Miguel Cairo's coming out. And Miguel Cairo may get himself tossed here. He's yelling at Laz Diaz, and he's been tossed. Miguel Cairo's been ejected. He's arguing not about the replay, but about the fact that they overturned it before the replay. The 0-2. Swinging a ground ball right side. Open right side. It's a base hit. Here comes Lopez to the plate. He'll score the go-ahead run, and over to third, chugs Ramirez. The Nationals cannot stem the tide. RBI single for Wagaman. The Marlins lead for the first time in the series, 4-3.
And welcome to Nats Chat, along with MASNsports.com Nationals insider Mark Zuckerman, who was at Lone Depot Park in Miami. I'm Al Galdi, host of the Al Galdi podcast. The 2025 season of Nats starting pitcher MacKenzie Gore is not over, and in fact, he's pitching on Thursday evening.
By the way, tomorrow, MacKenzie Gore, he was fine yesterday, so tomorrow he's going to start.
Okay. Surprising news, but really good news. We'll get to that shortly because that news is much better than the game we had on Wednesday evening. The Nats' 4-game winning streak is over, an 8-3 loss at the Marlins on Wednesday evening in Game 3 of a 4-game series. So this was a game in which the Nats blew a 3-0 6th-inning lead. The Nats allowed the Marlins to score the game's final 8 runs. An ugly game, to be sure. The two teams combined for 3 errors. So the two teams combined for 23 hits, but 19 of them were singles. The two teams combined to use 11 pitchers. 2 bad teams were on display in this game. The Nats in MLB's 2025 regular season now 60-85, worst record in the National League East, second worst record in the National League. You on Apple Podcasts and on Spotify can both rate the podcast and write reviews. 5-star ratings are greatly appreciated. Positive reviews are greatly appreciated. These things help us out a lot. We thank you very much for doing them. Coming up on the show, the latest on the Nats AAA affiliate, the Rochester Red Wings, via a report from the voice of the Red Wings, Josh Whetzel. But Mark, before we get to this 5-star classic on Wednesday evening, this MacKenzie Gore news, this is exciting. I'm very glad that this is the case. And while, we all knew that there was a chance he would be back, and he certainly was talking like he would be back, that he's coming back this quickly on his first day of eligibility in terms of being activated off the 15-day injured list. How about that?
Yeah, so it's funny. We talked to MacKenzie on Tuesday after he had thrown the bullpen session, and he said it all went well. And I asked him, you still feel like you're going to be able to come back and pitch this year? And he said that was the plan, that he felt good, but, still needed to meet with, coaching staff, the organization, and just try to figure out a timeline for it. Now, he was being coy, as it turns out, because he already knew that as long as there were no setbacks from that bullpen session, that they were going to activate him. And it makes sense. Now you throw a bullpen usually 2 or 3 days before you start a game. And so he knew. He just didn't want to let us know yet that he was actually coming back as soon as Thursday. I was thinking the double header coming up on Tuesday against the Braves, they're going to need an extra pitcher for that. I was thinking in those terms that maybe he'd be ready for that one. Instead, he goes Thursday. They bump everyone else back, and they'll use a 6-man rotation until they get to that doubleheader. And then after that, they perhaps will have to move somebody else out of the rotation or send them back down to the minors. But for those who are asking why bother with this, the reason is it was not a serious injury. He felt like all along he just needed a few days off. He was back throwing within a couple of days after that. There have been no setbacks since. Everything has felt good. And I think if you're MacKenzie Gore, the way the first half of the season went and the way the second half so far has gone for him, you want to come back and you want to pitch well and try to end your season on a high note. Now, there's no guarantee that'll be the case, but I can certainly understand his motivation for wanting to come back. And it really does fit in with what he said all along, is that this was not a significant injury. He just needed a few days, make sure he was right. And now he's good to go 15 days later.
In the Nats on August 30th announced having put Gore on the 15-day injured list, retroactive to August 27th due to left shoulder inflammation. Thursday, the first day he can come off that 15-day IL, and sure enough, he is coming off it. So Game 4 at the Miami Marlins, Thursday evening at 6:40. Some intrigue now with MacKenzie Gore pitching. It's a funny deal. The percentage of the time that a pitcher on the 15-day injured list actually spends 15 days, or a position player on the 10-day injured list actually spends just 10 days, is so small. I'd be willing to bet it's less than 10% across MLB over the course of each season. And so it actually is surprising when someone, especially a young starting pitcher late in a lost season for his team, actually only literally spends 15 days on the 15-day injured list. You don't see this often.
It's extremely rare, and it basically boils down to somebody going on the IL when maybe they didn't 100% need it, but they decide, let's not take a chance, let's give him a little bit of a rest, but he doesn't actually need that much time off. And what it shows you is that he really was able to start throwing again. If he had to shut down for any length of time, he couldn't have done this, because you got to build your arm back up, you throw a bullpen session, and then typically you would say with a pitcher, you've got to go face some live hitters, whether in a simulated game or even on a minor league rehab assignment. Well, this is such a short IL stint that they can get away without that. His arm is still stretched out. He, doesn't feel like he missed enough time that he needs to get his stamina back or anything like that. It wound up being 2 starts that he missed. It's great, but you're right. You do not see this very often. And if you do, it really does underscore the idea that it was a minor injury, and maybe even, frankly, something that they could have tried to pitch through. And I think he understood that where the team was at this point in the season, that wasn't worth doing. But I'd be willing to bet if they're in a different situation where they're actually in a pennant race, he's pitching through whatever this was and not shutting down for 2 weeks.
Well, good for MacKenzie Gore. Excited to see him pitch on Thursday evening. And like you said, hopefully he can end what had been a really good season in a good way, because he has struggled since the All-Star break, as we have discussed. A very unfortunate outing for Nats starting pitcher Jake Irvin on Wednesday evening. He officially allowed 4 runs, 3 earned in 5 innings. He gave up 5 hits, which were a double and 4 singles. He had 4 strikeouts versus no walks. He threw a lot of strikes, 74 pitches, 52 strikes, 22 balls. But the shame of the game for Irvin, he tossed 5 scoreless innings, and then everything fell apart in the bottom of the 6th. He allowed 4 runs, 3 earned in that bottom of the 6th, during which just about anything that could go wrong did go wrong. Shortstop C.J. Abrams committed a fielding error. Right fielder Dylan Cruz committed a fielding error. Nats interim manager Miguel Cairo got ejected. This off Jacob Marcy being ruled safe at second base on an RBI fielder's choice grounder by Otto Lopez. The second baseman Luis Garcia Jr., who was ruled to have missed the tag on Marcy. And there was all kinds of confusion with this. The initial call came after a rather lengthy get-together by the umpiring crew, and the call got upheld despite a replay challenge by Cairo. And then Irvin gets removed from the game, and how about this? Gets ejected from the dugout after being removed from the game. You don't see that often. So you think about Jake Irvin's night. He went from tossing 5 shutout innings to allowing 4 runs, 3 earned in 5 innings, and getting ejected after being removed from the game. I felt sympathy. I felt empathy for Jake Irvin. Things were going so well, and then things completely unraveled.
If you don't feel empathy for Jake Irvin after this one, you have no heart, because think about the season he's had. It's been a rough one, we know. But this was shaping up to be a big-time bounce-back performance from him. He looked so good through those 5 innings, very much in control, low pitch count, setting himself up to go deep into the game and extend the Nats' winning streak. And then what happened in the 6th inning, I understand that there are hits by definition in there. They were, I think with only one exception, ground ball singles, or in some cases errors, as you just outlined, and then the bizarre play that flipped the entire game in the Marlins' direction. So let's talk you through it, and from what I've gathered after the fact of how this went down. The grounder to second, Garcia comes charging in. Now, he could have, in theory, flipped it to C.J. Abrams at second base, and this whole thing becomes moot. And that's a whole other issue, because defensively, there was so much going on in this game that they were just not crisp at all, and a continuation of what we've seen, especially up the middle from them. But let's just talk about what actually happened. He goes to tag Marcy. The second base umpire, Eric Backus, rules him out. The umpiring crew, led by Laz Diaz, looks to the Marlins dugout. Clayton McCullough, their manager, signals that he wants to challenge that call because they believe he missed the tag. Well, before it actually went to New York to be reviewed, the umpires all huddle up together, and Laz Diaz, the crew chief, who's at first base, says he saw from his vantage point that the tag was not made, and he overrules the second base umpire on a call at second base and says that he's safe. He now goes over to Miguel Cairo to explain it, and Cairo immediately says, well, we're challenging that now because we are convinced that he was tagged.
I guess Laz saw it different from first base.
As this is all playing out, Luis Garcia is at second base with Jacob Marcy, the runner. According to Garcia, Marcy told him that he felt a tag, that he felt something touch him. And when you watch the replay, it sure looks like that jersey moves at least a little bit. Well, in the end, New York looks at it and decides, no, he's safe. That sets off Miguel Cairo, not so much for what New York said, and you're not allowed to argue a replay review, and so he's immediately ejected. He's mad at Diaz for changing the call on his own before just going straight to the replay. Why not just let the original call stand and go to the replay? And I think this is such a key point, because you see this in all sports with instant replay. In so many cases, whatever the call on the field is gets held up because it's hard to see conclusive evidence on video to overturn it. And this felt like, to me, whatever they called on the field was going to hold up, because it just wasn't definitive enough either way. So if they just stick with Backus's original call of out, then that's probably get the out, and who knows what happens after all that. So nobody loved the process of how that played out. You saw it from Cairo. You certainly saw the emotion from Irvin, who, as soon as he was out of the game, walked down to the end of the dugout and was there waiting to get Laz Diaz's attention. And you saw what happened after that. Really unfortunate. You hate that it went about that way. You understand why the Nats were so upset by it. But at the same time, we can get into this. They did so many other things in that inning in particular to not help their cause, with sloppy defense and just a quality or lack of quality of baseball they played in that inning and through the rest of the game, that I don't think should be overlooked. Yes, it's a bad call, but they did a lot of harm to themselves that cost them this game.
You had bad play by the Nats and you had bad officiating. I mean, both things can be true. I don't blame Miguel Cairo for being mad about that one bit. That the umpiring crew ended up essentially saving the Marlins a challenge by changing the call on the field like that. That's ridiculous. That should not happen. I couldn't believe that was happening. So I don't blame Cairo for being upset at all. Same for Irvin. But yeah, with the defense, it was embarrassing in that inning. I mean, not just the 2 errors, even on the play we were just discussing. So first of all, Garcia needs to make a better tag, or like you said, flip it to second base. But then Garcia made a bad throw to first base that Josh Bell was unable to scoop up. So like even that you had going on defensively in that inning. This team continues to be so bad defensively, especially in the infield. And yeah, that inning was like a comedy of errors. That inning in so many ways is the 2025 Nats. And they go from leading 3-0. This for a good chunk of the night felt like another comfortable Nats win. We were going to see another quality performance by the Nats. They fall apart in that inning, and the Marlins end the game by scoring 8 unanswered runs. Everything changed with that inning for sure.
You saw how the Nationals did not respond to any of this well. Like they fell apart. It's like the game was over. They stopped hitting. They stopped playing defense. They stopped pitching. And the game flipped completely in the opposite direction. And, you know, I got to say, I'm troubled by this aspect of Miguel Cairo. At least publicly, he does not criticize them for things like bad defense. He shrugs it off. You know, he did acknowledge, like, yes, we could have been sharper out there, but then he follows it up by saying things like, these things happen. That's baseball. We've been playing well.
We could have been sharper, but, you know, Irvin was pitching really good, and I kind of feel bad for him because he was dealing, and we could have been sharper.
I don't know behind the scenes if it's a different message, but when you see the same guys making the same mistakes over and over, it feels like there has not been any accountability and any reason for those players to feel like they have to shape up. They're going to play every day. They're not under any real scrutiny from the organization, it doesn't seem, for their mistakes. And these are not, you know, there are errors you can live with. And then there are the ones that feel like they're careless errors. And that's what this team has done way too often. I think it was a problem under Davey Martinez. I think it's still a problem under Miguel Cairo. Where's the accountability? Where is the manager and the coaching staff making it clear to these players that they've got to be better at these fundamental things? Now, again, maybe it happens behind the scenes and he just doesn't want to say it publicly, but I don't think there's any problem in saying publicly, hey, you know what? Yeah, there's a bad call in that inning. Yeah, we've been playing really well lately, but we've got to be better than that. At this point in the season, we got to make those kind of plays. It can't be that sloppy.
I feel like we've had this conversation about Davey Martinez about 27 times, right? Where it's like, why doesn't he call these guys out more for the sloppiness that these guys put out there on display? And I just think it's another instance of all of us kind of saying to ourselves, this team needs such a shakeup in terms of the managerial staff, in terms of coaching. Like the culture here just is not very good. And this style that, you know, Davey had, that Miguel Cairo is mimicking, you know, I think it can work for a veteran team. I think with a young team like this, you need someone who's more demanding. I don't know how realistic it is that the Nats' next manager is like a veteran manager who is a disciplinarian, because if you're going to go analytics and if you're going to be a bad team, the tendency is to go with a younger manager. But I tell you, you think about the kind of manager who could do some real good here. A veteran taskmaster, you know, that could be just what these young guys need. And we talked about this off the air the other day. You know, people, sometimes I wish we could record our post-show conversations and run those as a podcast. Maybe we could add like a pay level or something like that, because just all kinds of pearls of wisdom get distributed during those conversations. But, you know, someone like a Buck Showalter, like just a veteran guy who is just, you know, a menace when it comes to attention to detail. I'm not saying that they should hire Buck. I think there are many reasons not to hire Buck. But the idea would be you go from the quote-unquote player's manager, you go from the player-friendly guy to someone who's going to be, you know, a tough guy and who's going to say, this is how we do things. And if you don't do things the right way, there are consequences. You know, I think these young guys could use some of that. They could use a guy who's going to come in and kick some tail. I know that's kind of an old school approach. You don't see it often. But in this case, I think this team could use that.
I think, and we've discussed this, the fear that I have is that a lot of these young guys who have no other experience with other major league managers or coaching staffs, this is the only one that they have ever dealt with, that you fear that this is all they know, and therefore they develop these bad habits and don't ever feel like there's a problem with it because they get away with it. And for a CJ Abrams, a Luis Garcia, James Wood, even a Dylan Cruz, a Brady House, it's a lot of young guys who don't know any other kind of method to this in the big leagues. So you hope that they do bring in someone who can have more authority and accountability, but you also hope that it's not too late and that they haven't developed too many bad habits here in their first season in the big leagues and that it can be fixed. Some of these guys are not that young. Abrams and Garcia in particular have been here for a while, but they've only known one manager or one coaching staff, that is, with David Martinez and Miguel Cairo. How do they respond to somebody different? Can somebody else get through to them? I think that's a huge question as we head into next season.
Hey, a great supporter of the Nats Chat podcast for years now has been Window Nation. If you want new windows, if you need new windows, contact Window Nation. Tell Window Nation that Al Galdi from the Nats Chat podcast sent you. That helps out this podcast a lot, and that gets you a great deal on great Window Nation windows. In fact, now is the best time of year to get new windows. Whether you have old, drafty windows or cheap builder-grade windows, September is the perfect month to protect your home from cooler weather. And right now, Window Nation is offering its most popular offer: buy 2 replacement windows, get 2 for free. Plus, you won't pay any interest, pay any monthly payments, or pay any down payment for 2 years. 866-90-NATION or visit windownation.com and tell Window Nation that you want the deal that you heard about from Al Galdi on the Nats Chat podcast. With Window Nation, you get top quality windows from a trusted company, all at a reasonable price, because Window Nation knows that replacing windows is an investment, and Window Nation wants to make the investment affordable to you. And do not miss this great offer from Window Nation. For listeners of the Nats Chat podcast, the offer is good until September 30th. Buy 2 windows, get 2 free, and you pay nothing for 2 years. 866-90-NATION or windownation.com. That's 866-90-NATION or windownation.com. And tell Window Nation that Al Galdi from the Nats Chat podcast sent you.
Listen, life's all about leveling up. Whether you're handling business on the field or kicking it in your zone, you like to celebrate with cigars that match the moment. That's why you should link up with Famous Cigars to bring you a wild deal. Right now, you can grab 8 premium cigars for just $8. You heard that right. 8 top-rated cigars at $1 a stick. Top quality brands like Oliva, Romeo y Julieta, and Davidoff. Handpicked just for you and worth over $80. Hit up famouscigars.com/cam and lock in this exclusive deal. While you're there, check out their insane selection of premium cigars, all shipped fresh and fast from their massive 20,000 square foot humidor. That's half a football field. Famous Cigars has been in the game since 1939 and still family owned. So celebrate every win with the folks at Famous. 8 cigars for $8. famouscigars.com/cam.
Warning, the following ZipRecruiter radio spot you are about to hear is going to be filled with F-words.
When you're hiring, we at ZipRecruiter know you can feel frustrated, forlorn even, like your efforts are futile, and you can spend a fortune trying to find fabulous people, only to get flooded with candidates who are just fine. Fortunately, ZipRecruiter figured out how to fix all that. And right now, you can try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/zip. With ZipRecruiter, you can forget your frustrations because we find the right people for your roles fast, which is our absolute favorite F word. In fact, 4 out of 5 employers who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day.
Fantastic.
So, whether you need to hire 4, 40, or 400 people, get ready to meet first-rate talent. Just go to ZipRecruiter.com/zip to try ZipRecruiter for free. Don't forget, that's ZipRecruiter.com/zip. Finally, that's ZipRecruiter.com/zip.
The Rutledge delivery. Fastball, line drive, base hit up the middle. Edwards rounding third. He's coming home. Asa will throw it into second base as Marcy's back in there. And the Marlins tack on an insurance run. 5-3 Miami on the RBI single for Otto Lopez.
So Jake Irvin's outing unraveled, and then the Nats bullpen came in and did not have a good game. Nats relievers in this game, 5 of them officially combined to allow 4 runs in 3 innings. P.J. Poulin officially tossed a third of a scoreless inning, but he and the Marlins 4-run-6 faced 3 batters and got just 1 out. He, over the first two batters he faced, gave up back-to-back RBI singles. Clayton Beeter was good. He tossed 2/3 of a perfect inning. Connor Pilkington officially allowed a run in a third of an inning. He and the Marlins, 1 run, 7th, faced 3 batters, got just 1 out. He gave up back-to-back 1-out singles. Jackson Rutledge officially allowed 3 runs in 1 1/3 innings. He, to the first batter he faced, gave up a 1-out RBI single by Otto Lopez up the middle for a 5-3 Marlins lead in the bottom of the 7th, and Rutledge in the bottom of the 8th gave up a 2-out, 3-run homer by Xavier Edwards to right field for an 8-3 Marlins lead, and Mason Thompson faced 2 batters and got 2 outs. We've been talking about this. The Nats in the midst of 14 games in 13 days, 5 relievers used in this game by Miguel Cairo, and the nature of this game, I mentioned it at the top, the two teams combining for 23 hits, 19 of the 23 hits singles. The Nats in this game, it felt like, got singled to death. You know, this was like a BABIP game, and just balls in play all over the place. And so often, balls in play against Nats pitching wound up being hits.
Yeah, I counted 7 hits in the 6th and the 7th inning, which was kind of the decisive point of the game. All of them singles, and 6 of them on the ground, if I have that correct. Now, yes, some of those are just perfectly placed, nothing you can do about it, but there's also these things like ground balls that just get past a diving infielder, the kind of stuff that's not in air, but as we've talked so much over the last few years, plays that maybe could have been made. It's a recurring theme, and if you have a pitching staff that's not real big on strikeouts, you better make every possible play you can in the field, and it did feel like the Marlins were just nickel and diming them. You know, to their credit, they put the bat on the ball and they hit them where they ain't. But it did feel like this game could have been flipped the entire other direction with just a couple more clean plays in the field that turned those ground balls, singles, into outs.
Yeah, the Nats are not adept at turning batted balls into outs. The Nats in this 8-3 loss at the Marlins on Wednesday evening scored just 3 runs, despite totaling 10 hits and going 2 for 7 with runners in scoring position. But the 10 hits were a triple, a double, and 8 singles. The Nats worked no walks and struck out 13 times. 3 of those strikeouts were by James Wood. He is the Nats starting DH and number 2 batter, 1 for 4 with a single and 3 strikeouts. He got caught in an attempted steal. And Wood now for this regular season is at an MLB leading 198 strikeouts, 1 away from the Montreal Expos / Washington Nationals single season record for strikeouts by a player, 199 by Adam Dunn in 2010. Wood now is at 198. But happier news for Daylen Lile. He in this game as the Nats starting left fielder and number 4 batter, 2 for 4 with an RBI triple and a single. Lile in a Nats 2-run 6 had a 2-out first pitch RBI triple to right field for a 2-0 Nats lead. So Lile remains hot. And Lile has become a triple machine. 9 triples for Daylen Lile now. That's pretty impressive.
In fewer than 300 plate appearances that he has that's matched Bryce Harper's rookie record for the team, and that's tied for the second most in team history. The record, and I'm surprised, I thought more had done this. The record single season Nationals history is 11 by Denard Span, who, by the way, is here covering this series for MASN, filling in for Kevin Franson. Daylen Lile, there's 16 games to go. Can he come up with 2 more triples? If he can, he would match Denard Span's club record from 2013, and again, would do it in about half of the at-bats that Denard Span had playing over a full season in 2013. This has become such a fun thing to watch. He's hitting the ball hard, and once he makes contact and the ball gets, finds grass in the outfield, he takes off on the bases. I got a real kick out of in the 8th inning when they're still trying to rally and get back in this game. Josh Bell singles, and then Lile singles as well. Now it's 1st and 2nd with 1 out, and that's when they decide to pinch run for Wood. And they put Nasim Nunez out there. Now they're trailing by 2 runs. So in theory, that first runner doesn't really matter. So why bother with it? And I'm thinking to myself, you pinch run for Bell there, not because of his run, but because you want to make sure Lile has a chance to score from first behind him. And you don't want anybody clogging up the bases in front of him. It never came to that because they didn't get anything going after that. But it felt to me like that was more about who the trailing runner was, Lile, and wanted to give him every possible opportunity to score from first because that's how fast he is. He can have that kind of impact on the bases. This has become a lot of fun to watch.
He does not have enough plate appearance to be a quote-unquote qualified Nats player for this regular season, but the 9 triples are part of him having an OPS of 789, a better OPS than what C.J. Abrams has at 777, and honestly, not that far from James Wood, who's 827. I mean, Wood's OPS has plummeted here, and Lile is at 789. Daylen Lile realistically could finish with an OPS in the 800s. It is remarkable, and it has been so good to see him do as he is doing. You mentioned it, maybe he's a dark horse candidate here for National League Rookie of the Year, or at least he'll get some votes. Perhaps he can be one of the top 3 finishers. But man, Daylen Lile is not letting up. And I'll say this about the 9 triples. So many triples in baseball are kind of fluky and are the results of bad defense. I feel like the majority of Lyle's triples have been well-earned. They have been like legitimate triples. Like the triple in this game was a well-earned, legitimate triple to right field. It was not some quirky thing where an outfielder, fell on his face and the ball landed right next to the outfielder and Lile got credit for a triple.
No, or like weird bounces off a wall that faces an odd direction. No, this is line drives down the right field line or to the gaps. He makes contact and he takes off and he thinks 3 bases from the get-go. I love that about him. You can always stop if you get to second and realize you can't make it. But if you're thinking 3 all the way from the box, you've got a chance to do it. I agree. I maybe there's one fluky one in there somewhere. I think the vast majority of these have been legit triples on hard contact and, well placed. But the kind of hits that typically off the bat, for most guys, you just assume double. And for him, you're starting to assume triple.
He had the one in Chicago where Pete Crow Armstrong lost the ball in the sun, but even that was a ball that was hit to the warning track. So that was a well-struck ball that Pete Crow Armstrong, who, by the way, is an excellent fielder, just lost in the sky. Also in this game, Luis Garcia Jr., he is the Nats starting second baseman and number 5 batter, 2 for 4 with an RBI single and another single. Garcia's been hitting well lately. And Brady House, he is the Nats starting third baseman and number 7 batter, 1 for 4 with a double.
Warning, the following ZipRecruiter radio spot you are about to hear is going to be filled with F-words.
When you're hiring, we at ZipRecruiter know you can feel frustrated, forlorn even, like your efforts are futile, and you can spend a fortune trying to find fabulous people, only to get flooded with candidates who are just fine. Fortunately, ZipRecruiter figured out how to fix all that. And right now, you can try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/zip. With ZipRecruiter, you can forget your frustrations because we find the right people for your roles fast, which is our absolute favorite F word. In fact, 4 out of 5 employers who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day.
Fantastic.
So, whether you need to hire 4, 40, or 400 people, get ready to meet first-rate talent. Just go to ZipRecruiter.com/zip to try ZipRecruiter for free. Don't forget, that's ZipRecruiter.com/zip. Finally, that's ZipRecruiter.com/zip.
From the stretch, Perez fires. Swinging a line drive, looped right side. It's fair. It's down the line, headed toward the corner. Bell chugging around second, heading for third. Weimer trying to dig it out of the corner. Bell's going to be waved in. And the throw into Edwards. He'll throw to the plate. Bell will slide and he'll score. And over to third with a triple is Daylen Lile. The Nationals lead 2-0. Lile with his 9th triple of the year. That's tied for the second most all time.
Regarding MacKenzie Gore on Thursday evening, do you think he'll be on any kind of a pitch count or a workload limit, or do you think they'll just kind of let him go?
I could see them being cautious in this first one back. Yeah, whether that's, 5 innings, maybe 6 if he's super efficient. I would guess they're not going to push him more than 80 to 90 pitches. But you see, you base it on how he looks, how he feels. I do think it's interesting that they chose to bring him back here against the Marlins. Maybe they're thinking it's a good matchup and a good way for him to get back into the flow of things against a team that I know they scored 8 runs in this game, but have not shown a whole lot offensively otherwise. I wonder if that had something to do with it. But, it'll be good to see if that's game 147. So if he stays on schedule, you can go 152, 157, and maybe 162. He could be looking at 4 more starts before it's all said and done, at least 3. That's a great thing and a great opportunity for him to close out his season on a much-needed high note.
All right, so we now know who the Nats will have playing in the Arizona Fall League this coming offseason. The most notable names, Seaver King will be in the mix. Ethan Petry will be in the mix. Jake Bennett will be in the mix. Any surprises in terms of who is not participating in the Arizona Fall League for the Nats?
No one in particular. They've got so many kids already in the big leagues who might otherwise, you would think, be a candidate for that. But, someone like Robert Hassel, Brady House, Daylen Lile, a lot of the pitchers that have been here, Andrew Alvarez, that kind of thing. You can understand why they say, hey, let's just shut him down after the season. There's no reason to get him any more time. Maybe it'd be nice to have seen Yo-Yo Morales go there, but I don't think that's the end of the world. What's interesting to me is that you're talking about a couple of guys who are still very young. Seaver King drafted a year ago. He's 22. He'll be one of the youngest players in that league. And then Ethan Petrie's even younger. He's 21. He was just drafted this summer out of South Carolina. He's played like 21 professional games, and they're going to send him out there to the Fall League where he's facing guys that in theory are close to big league ready or even may have some minimal big league experience. So that's a big step. We'll see how he handles it. I was glad to see those names on there. Jake Bennett, that's a good example of someone who missed a lot of time coming back from Tommy John surgery. And so here's an opportunity to get him some more work to finish out the year. But that's good to see, and that he's come back healthy from that. The rest of the names are not a lot of names that stand out. And this does happen very often, especially with pitchers, where they just have to fill out these rosters. And they don't want to send guys who pitched an entire season in the minors worried about their workload. So maybe not the top of the organization type prospects or even guys who are on the cusp of the big leagues, but that's a good test there for both Seaver King and Ethan Petrie, and I'll be curious to see how they handle it.
Yeah, Seaver King, a shortstop out of Wake Forest. Nats took him with the number 10 overall pick in the 2024 MLB draft. Ethan Petrie, outfielder out of the University of South Carolina. The Nats took him with the number 59 overall pick in the 2025 MLB draft.
So I'll be interested to see a year from now, Eli Willits, okay? I'm thinking back to Bryce Harper, drafted in 2010. And by October of 2011, he did go to the Fall League. Similar age here, similar circumstances as Willits. If he has a good first full professional season, could he be on that list and wind up going to the Fall League at age 18 with an eye on making the big leagues at some point in 27? We're getting ahead of ourselves here, but that will be a fascinating thing to watch next year.
Well, he wants to make the majors by 20, right? Mm-hmm. So that would be part of that path, in theory. Hopefully it happens. We'll see. Hit us up on X at Nats_chat. You can find us on Blue Sky at Nats Chat Podcast. You can email us, natschatpodcast@gmail.com. We have T-shirts. We always appreciate the support. You can get a T-shirt by going to natschatpodcast.com. All Nationals radio highlights on Nats Chat are courtesy of 106.7 The Fan. For Mark Zuckerman, I'm Al Galdi. We'll talk to you next time on the Nats Chat Podcast. And we'll leave you now with the latest on the Nats AAA affiliate, the Rochester Red Wings, with this from the voice of the Red Wings, Josh Whetzel.
Left-handed batter with a wide-open stance. Tate winds and pitches, and a swing and a fly ball rammed into center. Clase sprinting back, gets to the warning track of the fence. It's out of here. Schnell homers on Tate's first pitch, and it's 9-2. Home run number 20 for Nick Schnell, tying him with Andrew Pinckney for the team lead in that department. Time for a Rochester Red Wings update. First on the hitting side of things, Andrew Pinckney has really been tearing it up since the All-Star break, hitting .320 with 11 homers and 39 driven in since the All-Star break. He has 20 home runs, which led the Red Wings by himself until Nick Schnell went deep on Wednesday night. He and Pinckney now tied for the Red Wings team lead with 20 home runs in the season. Schnell, the former first-round pick of the Rays, who joined Rochester in late May from AA Harrisburg, hitting .261 with 20 homers on the season, 63 batted in. Very similar numbers to Pinckney, who overall is hitting .269 with 20 homers, 66 driven in. Pinckney adding 34 stolen bases, which ranks 7th most in the International League. Jose Tena had a 21-game on-base streak end on Tuesday. He's hitting .295 for the Red Wings in 42 games with a .391 on-base percentage and an OPS of .831. Trey Lipscomb has been getting a lot of doubles for the Red Wings. The versatile Lipscomb only had 2 or 3 doubles much of the year, and then from May 25th on, he's been racking up all sorts of two-base hits. His 24 doubles since May 25th are the most in the International League. Phillip Glasser, recently promoted from AA Harrisburg, has gone 3 for 8 with a triple and a homer in his first 2 games at the AAA level. Glasser, a 10th-round pick out of the University of Indiana in 2023 by the Nats, was hitting .293 with 6 home runs for Harrisburg. He had a .379 on-base percentage for the Senators and also had stolen 30 bases. And on the pitching side of things, 34-year-old veteran right-hander Adrian Sampson's been very good since returning off the injured list. In his last 5 starts, 3-1 with a 2.17 earned run average. International League hitters are batting just .163 against Sampson in that stretch. Overall this year, he's 5-4 with a 4.21 ERA. And Sauron Lau has pitched in a couple of games for the Red Wings after the Nationals claimed him off waivers from the Mariners. In those 2 games, the converted infielder has worked 3 2/3 innings, allowing 1 run on 4 hits. With Tacoma earlier this season, the Mariners' AAA affiliate, he had a 3.13 ERA in 22 games pitched, including 19 starts, although most of the time the Mariners were using him for only 3 or 4 innings in a start for Tacoma. This is Josh Whetzel with this Rochester Red Wings update. Pitch to Glasser, left-hand batter, slugged in the air to right center. This has Clase speeding back out near the fence. This is out by the wall, and it's gone. Phillip Glasser gets the Wings on the scoreboard with his first AAA home run in his second AAA game. It's 6-1. Glasser had a couple of hits last night, a single and a triple. His third AAA hit is a long ball.
Finding great candidates to hire can be like, well, trying to find a needle in a haystack. Sure, you can post your job to some job board, but then all you can do is hope the right person comes along. Which is why you should try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/zip. ZipRecruiter doesn't depend on candidates finding you. It finds them for you. Its powerful technology identifies people with the right experience and actively invites them to apply to your job. You get qualified candidates fast. So while other companies might deliver a lot of hay, ZipRecruiter finds you what you're looking for. The needle in the haystack.
See why 4 out of 5 employers who post a job on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire. And right now, you can try ZipRecruiter for free. That's right, free at ZipRecruiter.com/zip. That's ZipRecruiter.com/zip. ZipRecruiter.com/zip.